Hi everybody, Jane Malmy here, and welcome to a very special scrapbook process video. This week, the creative design team and I are collaborating to celebrate my 10,000 subscriber mark here on YouTube, which is so exciting. I am so honored to have all of you here with me along for the ride. I absolutely love creating videos and providing inspiration, and thank you for continuing to come back and watch my videos. So to celebrate, each of the creative design team members is going to be scraplifting one of my layouts. And I've also invited a couple of other crafty friends who have YouTube channels and have styles that I really admire. So we're gonna have a couple of visitors as well. So that's super exciting. But everybody's gonna be scraplifting me, something that I may have posted a video for or just posted on Instagram, which by the way, if you don't follow me on Instagram, I've got all my social media linked down below. So I'm going to be scraplifting myself as well, and I am going to be scraplifting the very first layout that I ever posted here on YouTube. So here is a look at that, and I thought it was fun when we celebrated Erin's 10,000 subscribers. She scraplifted her first layout, so I decided to do the same. Now, it is a very cute layout. I still absolutely love this layout. Not a great video. So I will link it down below if you want to watch it and maybe see how far my videos have come. But just disclaimer, it's not very high quality. But hopefully you will enjoy this video, this recreation. It's been really fun to watch all of my friends' takes on the videos so far. Some of them even tried to bring in some of my style, like splatters. So it's been really fun to watch, and so I will have that playlist linked down below as well as at the end of this video, so you can go back and watch any of the videos that you may have missed. And there's also 4 more videos coming up after this one in the days to come. So I hope that you enjoyed. Let's go ahead and dive into today's project. I'm going to be documenting these photos of my son many years ago, picking blueberries in our yard, and I'm using the It's the Little Things paper collection to document this. I love the bright colors and that it has the blue and green in the photos, but then brings in a lot more bright colors, which is what I wanted. Now, I used up most of the patterns in this collection that are the more solid patterns, or like a color plus white. I did that on this layout, which I posted recently, so I will link that below if you want to watch it. But I pulled out some patterns from my stash that had all of these same colors, so I'm going to be working with those. And then I also had some of this cardstock that has a UV pattern. I think you can see that here, and I think that that's going to bring in some nice solids, but have a little bit of interest with that UV coating. And then there's these stickers from the It's the Little Things collection. And I thought some of these little word phrases would be cute to sprinkle throughout as well. Give you a look at some of the other stickers. Some of them might work, but I know that I want to try to work in those little word stickers. So this is the scrapbooking stickers and the card making stickers. I've shown these before, but just thought I'd flip through them again real quick. And then I'm going to go ahead and get started here. I'm doing a 1-page layout, so I'm going to pull in one Versamat, and I'm using just a little bit of tape runner to stick it down onto my mat, and that's really easy to just rub off at the end when I'm all done. And now I'm going to bring in all of these strips. This is a really great layout to do if you have a bunch of scraps, or in this case I had 6-inch paper. So I'm going to start lining these up and just spacing them out so that the colors are spaced out and the width, or I guess in this case the height of the strips, is varied going down. So I did cut these strips a little bit skinnier than on my original layout, and that's because a lot of these patterns, well, those rainbow patterns, are busier than the patterns I used on the other layout. So in order to make them a little bit less busy, or there's so much going on, I did cut them skinnier, and then I used more patterns than I did originally as well. So this also helped with that. I have a couple of different Lagoon pieces. One is the cardstock and one is a patterned paper. So I was alternating the patterns of those. And then I'm going to kind of switch some things out here, making sure that each of the colors is spread out enough. I'm just kind of eyeballing it, and at this point I'm standing up. That gives me a little bit better vantage point to see, you know, how I'm liking everything. And this is looking pretty good to me. So I'm gonna switch out this red, have those a little closer. I do have just a couple of little strips of red, and then like Lagoon I have more of because that's in the photo more. And I did definitely want the red in there, but it's such a powerful color, I didn't want it dominating, so I just used a little bit of it. So here I've got some glitter paper, and I want to use that to kind of hide this seam over here. My piece was just shy of 12 inches, so no problem. A lot of it's going to be covered anyway, so I just snipped it. I've been asked before, why use glitter paper when you could use shimmer trim, or should I use shimmer trim? And so I thought I would show you. The shimmer trim is just a little bit flimsier. Don't get me wrong, I love shimmer trim and it has its place, but when I'm going to be overlapping some other paper just a little bit like this, I like the glitter paper because it's a thicker cardstock, and so it holds up to that overlap, if that makes sense, because the shimmer trim would sort of like show that little ridge where you've got the paper partly under it. So that's the only reason why. You could definitely use shimmer trim if you want. And so here's that extra little piece of glitter paper that I had left over from the middle, and that's going to go up in this banner with a few of the other patterns from all of those strips. Now in my original layout I used some heart dies, so I pulled out those original heart dies that I used, and then I also pulled out this rainbow because why not have a rainbow on a rainbow colored layout. And then that rainbow die, which is still available, comes with one of those clouds, and then the other clouds are from a Lawn Fawn stamp set or die set that I have. So I tape my dies together for this rainbow, as you saw, and I cut a little square of all the arches at once, and then that way when I'm done I've got 4 each of 4 different colors of arches, and then that way I can make 3 other rainbows for cards or whatever else I want to use, and it's just easier that way, and there's no waste, because if you're not going to cut all the arches, you're just going to kind of have a wasted arch, you know, shape in your cardstock. So this is how I do it, and it gets you some quadruple duty out of your dies. So I was playing with this idea of stamping on a yellow strip because I wasn't sure if I wanted to use that yellow gingham paper. It's more busy since it's checkered and has the yellow and white, and I thought I might want to switch that out for some cardstock, but did some tone-on-tone stamping to have a little bit of interest to it. And I'm using the Dainty Patterns stamp set, and the reason is because I thought those dots kind of looked like blueberries, so just kind of a little fun play on the subject, or the part of the subject. But I ended up going back to that checkered pattern because I liked the way that that looked. But I did kind of, stop and stare at it and live with it for a little bit and see how I liked it. I also had pulled out a slightly different color of yellow. It wasn't quite as bright as the lemonade. I think it's lemon maybe, or just a slightly different yellow. So rather than pull out more lemonade cardstock, I thought, you know what, I like the gingham, I'm just gonna go with that. So before I glue all those strips down, I wanted to just sort of roughly start laying out my embellishments just to make sure I liked the direction of this idea I had in my head, and I can already tell that I do. So I'm going to move all these off before I get too far along, and I just glued down all of those little strips so they don't move around on me, and now I'm gluing down these this little glitter paper piece using my T-square ruler against the Versamat to make sure I have it all lined up and straight. And before I continue on with my embellishing, I want to choose my matte color because I know I want to have a matte to make my photo stand out more, and I want to have that chosen before I start choosing colors of my embellishments and everything. I liked the red, but again didn't want to have such a bright, powerful color as the focal, so I ended up going with the green, and I'm using that UV coated cardstock again, and then decided to actually matte it again in black and really make sure that that photo stands out. We have so much going on in that background, so many bright colors, that by triple matting this, it's really helping the photos to stand out more, because I do love bright colors and I love adding embellishments and all these fun, extra things on my layout. But I do want the photo to be, or in this case, photos as a photo, to be the star of the show and really stand out and make sure that it's obvious that that's the thing that your eye is going to find first on this layout. And then all the other stuff is just supporting, and it's fun to look at and help draw your eye around the page. So I have that little rainbow and arranged some clouds down there and adding some of those little hearts from the original inspiration layout. These hearts are, I think they were one of the very first dies that Close to My Heart ever came out with, and I absolutely love them because you can use the center of the heart and the outline. And the outline heart just gives such a different look. It's whimsy, not so heavy. So I really loved being able to mix both of those on my page. And I wasn't sure what colors I was going to use ahead of time, so I just cut out a whole bunch in all of the patterns that I used over in the strips and just, cut everything out. So I've got a whole bunch to choose from, a whole bunch left over to use on other projects. And then these clouds I thought would be fun to use as sort of a base for my embellishment cluster up here. Because we have so much color, my embellishments would have just blended into the background if I didn't have something grounding them. So I'm adding a few of the clouds up there, which play into the rainbow embellishment cluster. And then my little hearts are going to stand out against those clouds and just adds a fun little whimsy look. And the clouds are going to be a piece of each of my embellishment clusters. I'll add a little bit up into that top corner as well. But they were a little bit flat, so what I decided to do was ink around the edges. I pulled out Mink and Linen. Linen is the lightest gray, so I tried that first, and that gave enough of a punch for me to make it look just like a little shadow around these little clouds. And so I'm going to end up doing the inking around the rest of the clouds off camera in just a little bit, but just kind of tested that out and I like it, so I'm going to continue on with the rest of my embellishing. Creating embellishment clusters and visual triangles is something I talk about a lot on my channel, and this is no exception. You can see this visual triangle I'm forming with each of these 3 embellishment clusters, and it really helps to draw your eye around the page and make everything look balanced when you have that visual triangle with your embellishment clusters. And I'm just kind of layering up, starting with a base layer and kind of building on that in each cluster. I'm going to tuck a cloud behind here. I like to have a lot of different types of shapes and sizes and textures in each of my clusters, just to really give your eye some fun stuff to look at. So now I'm going to work on my title, and I pulled out this Moments That Matter stamp set. It's got some really good titles on it, and this is actually the first time I've used it, but it's going to be perfect for this. I'm using this title that says Little Moments That Matter because that is exactly what this was. And it's just a little moment that represented a lot of different moments that my son had in our yard with these blueberries that he just loved. He would bring a bowl out there to pick blueberries, and usually I would go out and pick blueberries with him. We had these mature blueberry bushes that just went crazy. Like, we couldn't even keep up with them. It was amazing. I really, really miss this house with this garden. But he would go out there with the bowl with me, but he would never come inside with anything left in his bowl. He ate them all while he was out there, and he still loves blueberries. He's almost 7 now. But anyways, I'm going to stamp this title in Archival black ink. I'm letting it soak into the paper for a moment before I pick it up, and notice I have that little foam sheet that I put underneath my layout too, and that also helps to get a good impression. And I also seasoned the stamp before stamping it. So those are all tips to get a good impression, because I know it can be scary to stamp right on your layout. Now, I knew I wanted to add splatter because, I do that on most of my layouts, but also because I had it in that inspiration layout. See, even back in my first video, I had splatters. So I first tried this spray and it wasn't quite the right color. So what I'm gonna do is squish some of the Lagoon ink, which matches the Lagoon in the paper, onto my all-purpose mat. And I'm adding just a very little bead of liquid pearls, and then I'm going to add a little bit of water, and then when I mix that up, it makes a nice colored liquid pearl splatter, and that is going to splatter nicely onto our layout. So I got this tip from Chelsea. She did a whole class. Actually, she did a couple of classes on liquid pearls in our membership group that were so good, and this is just one of the techniques that she showed, which was just mind-blowing. It adds this really beautiful texture. It's not as flat as just a regular liquid splatter, and so it's got a little body. You can tint it any color, and it's got that nice pearly finish. So while I do that, I wanted to tell you a little bit about our membership group because we are now open for registration. We have a weekly class video where we dive deep into a topic, much more than we do on YouTube. Plus, each class has a downloadable guide. There's a monthly challenge. We all have unique styles to learn from, and it's just a really great community. And this is actually our 1-year anniversary of our membership group. So we are holding a celebration event that is free over on Facebook, and I will have the link to that down below, and we hope to see you there. Okay, back to our project. So I finished all the splatters and I squeezed out the extra color from my water brush, and I'm just going to clean that up from my all-purpose mat. By the way, I do cut my all-purpose mat into 4 pieces for little projects like this, which makes it really handy. I'm adhering the photo so that I have an equal distance on both sides of my title. That makes the photo pretty much right in the middle of the layout, which I don't typically do because I like things being off center, but it just goes along with that sort of half and half background that we have going on, and then we're kind of going off of that symmetrical look with all of our embellishment clusters. So I didn't show laying these down again because you already saw me place them, and now I'm just gluing the last pieces down. So some of the clouds and some of the hearts and pieces I'm gluing flat to the layout, and then the ones that are sitting more on top of an embellishment cluster, I'm putting thin 3D foam on. That gives it a little bit of variation in dimension, but it doesn't add too much dimension because I don't like my scrapbook pages to be too bulky in my album. So I'm just going to place these back where I had them and make sure I like everything, and then use my fine tip glue. This is the Barely Art glue to add a little bit of glue on these skinny hearts. I'm doing the same thing with these banners at the top. I'm gluing most of the pieces down flat to the page, but then the heart is going to be the piece that's on the top of the cluster, and that's going to have a little 3D foam tape. And I did the same thing with that little cluster over on the right as well. You know, looking at this now, this is has a lot of similar elements to the layout that Erin scraplifted of me. She posted hers on Tuesday, and again, hers and everyone else's videos are in the playlist that is listed at the end of this video. So even though it is a very different layout, there are some similarities, and you could pick up some design elements from both of the layouts. So now I'm ready to take my layout off of my Versamat, and I'm just using this rub and remove eraser to get that extra adhesive off the corners. And then I'm going to trim off those little banners that are hanging off. And then on the right side of the layout, there was a little piece of the strips that didn't fit totally going vertical. So I'm going to trim that off as well. And I'm just using my micro tip scissors, which are really sharp and make it really nice and easy to do this. You could also use your paper trimmer if you'd like, but I find the scissors to be very easy. And there is our almost finished layout. I decided that I'm going to use some journal strips from our journaling. I've shown these before. They're one of my favorite scrapbooking supplies. They are just sticker strips, and I just write my journaling right across the strip, and then I'm able to peel it off and snip it where I want to snip it and put it down right onto my layout. So here I'm just going to snip it with those same scissors, and then I can just kind of test out, see where I think I want it, and see how long I want it, and then just snip it where I want to end it, and then add my next little strip underneath it. And then this third strip is going to be pretty short, but then I end up going back and adding the date because I forgot to add that at the end of this. So I'll just butt up another strip right next to that, and you can see that there. And then I needed a little bit of bling, some more bling. So I've got some silver glitter gems, and I like sprinkling little things like the this around because it just adds another different type of texture and sparkle to the layout. I'm going to add those in mostly groups of 3. I'm just going to add one up here, and then I'll add a few over in this other cluster as well. And I love the little finishing look that that gives. And then I almost forgot that I need to add those little strips from the sticker sheet. So I'm going to pull a bunch of the little strips. There were a whole bunch of them that worked. We've got Remember This, Delightful, The Good Life, Happy, 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 Happy Days, Love This, and I put 2 in each of the clusters because that's really all I had room for, and didn't have any more strips to use after that. But I really like how they finish things off and also tie in that whole strip idea that's on the right. Here are both layouts side by side. I'll give you a closer look at them both. Here are the embellishment clusters, and then I'm trying to show you the shimmer from the splatters, but it's really hard to pick up on camera. Trust me, it's really beautiful in person. I hope you try that with the liquid pearls. And then here's a close-up of that layout that I did previously with the thicker strips, and then we don't have as much layering going on, very simple embellishments, which is also very effective. My title is also stamped on there with an alphabet stamp set. I hope you were inspired by this video, and if you were, be sure to hit that like button and be sure to check out all the links down in the description below to check out the membership and our free celebration event. And you definitely don't want to miss the other girls' Scraplift projects. They are nothing short of amazing, and that playlist is on the right, and another video of mine you might enjoy is on the left. Thanks for watching and have a great day.